Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Lunch and Learn. I'd like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land from which each of us are joining from. For me, that's the land of the Darkinjung people, and I pay my respects to elders past and present. My name is Sally, and I'm the Policy Manager at Disability Employment Australia, and I'll be hosting today's webinar. These webinars are a partnership between Disability Employment Australia and the Centre for Inclusive Employment, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all, especially given that we are so early into the first week of the new IEA contract, and I'm sure that you all have plenty going on. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you do need to access the captions, Liv is going to pop some links and instructions into the chat so you can access the captions through those. And today's session will be recorded, and a recording as well as a copy of the presentation will be made available to you after today. And without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to Lisa. Lisa is the CEO at Nexus and is joining us today to share on the topic of ongoing support. Lisa has been working in the sector and also in some related roles for quite a few years now, and has developed some extensive experience in providing high quality person-centred ongoing support. And has been involved in delivering that on the front line, but also supporting and overseeing the delivery of ongoing support as well. So without any further ado, I will hand over to Lisa to take us through today's session. Thanks, Lisa.
Great, cheers. Thanks, Sally. I'm just going to get my PowerPoints up here, which has just gone to the wrong screen. That might be a second. Okay, so thank you. So my name is Lisa McPherson. I'm the CEO of Nexus Human Services. So today I'm going to be sharing about best practice for creating meaningful, sustainable employment opportunities for people with disabilities. I've had more than 30 years experience in the disability employment sector, and I'm drawing upon our organisational's experience and some successful examples on delivering high quality ongoing support. So today's session isn't just about helping people find jobs. It's about making sure they stay employed, grow in those roles and thrive within the team. We are here to create outcomes that are lasting, impactful and truly life-changing. So today I would like to make the session a little bit interactive. So if you've got questions, please pop them up in the chat. Because I'd really like to answer questions as we go if possible today, and then we'll leave some time at the end for questions as well. I know that people seem to get a little bit, so also remember this is a learning space, so no matter what your question is, please feel free to ask it. So pop your questions in the chat box. Any questions, not a silly question, as we all know, so please share those questions and comments in the chat. So let's kick off with making sure that we all know how to use the chat box today. And I'd like you to start by popping up some emojis in the chat. So share some love and welcome everyone to the session today. Perfect. So good to see that everyone knows how to use the chat. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to kick off with what is ongoing support. So ongoing support bridges the gap between securing a job and keeping it. It ensures participants build confidence, independence, and resilience. It's the link between getting a job and keeping it, and it ensures sustained success, not just the initial placement. Take a moment and have a think. When you've had a great leader, a role model or coach. That's the type of things that we're looking for in ongoing support. Once an auditor told me that EC, so employment coaches' work, is similar to life coaching. And every employment coach should have the opportunity to do some life coaching training. At that time, I thought, okay, yeah, fair comment. But since I've done my life coaching myself, I really understand that comment and think it's a really positive one. So I really encourage you, when you're doing your ongoing support with your participants, to have a think about that and have a think about what type of support you've had in your career, because that's the type of support that we also should be providing to our participants. So why does it matter? So number of reasons. Retention. So the tailored support helps people keep the jobs in the long term. It also helps build confidence by addressing workplace challenges. And employees gain their trust in their abilities. And employers also gain the trust in what the employees' abilities are. There's also the sustainability aspect. So building inclusive workplaces contributes to retention and reduces turnover for employers. So the social impact, so around better health, security, and community connection. It also allows people to develop skills to allow for natural career progression. So I've talked about retention, confidence, sustainability, the social impact and ongoing support turns the placements into long-term success stories. And that is both for the employee and the employer. So practice makes perfect. I've all heard that saying before, I presume. So providers must extend beyond placement. We're here to build trust and collaboration through the employment journey. So set your clear expectations early to align with participant and employer goals. Measure quality outcomes by tracking growth and engagement, not just through the duration of employment. Adapt supports proactively to meet challenges in participants' needs or workplace dynamics. Our value lies in being a proactive partner who maintains strong relationships that benefit both participants and employers. So a couple of other tips around what it looks like in practice. Relationships are critical. So the strong relationship between participants, providers, employers are the foundation of effective ongoing support. Communication, so open, proactive communication prevents any issues, problems from occurring, such as transport, confidence, attending work on time, all of those different things. Make sure everything's flexible. And early interventions help address issues like transport or stress management before they become complex issues. Regular reviews ensure that support's involved alongside clients' goals or workplace needs. Trusted partnerships create the environment needed for participants to succeed in the long term, and it ensures employers feel confident in fostering inclusive workplaces. I'm going to just pause there for a minute. We are going to talk about some real live examples in a moment. I'm going to just pause if there's any questions and have a sip of water.
Lisa, Sally, I haven't seen any come through in the chat just
None yet?
yet.
Okay.
But shall let you know if any do.
Okay, thank you, Sally. That would be great. Yeah. The role of education. So also when you're doing your ongoing support, there's a really specific role in education. It's not about just keeping someone in their current role. It's about helping people to develop further. It's also an important part of career development and progression. So some examples of education that you can be doing with your participants are around communication skills, how to network effectively, work health and safety in the workplace, tax returns, work-life balance. And you'll see on the slide, and this slide will be available, there's a few other examples, but this is only, you know, a really small part of education that can be done as part of ongoing support. So one thing that I've really encouraged people to do over the years is to develop your own little toolkit, which includes the type of education that you can deliver to your participants. So then over the time when you're doing ongoing support, if you're having some times when it might be difficult to communicate or you want to offer a different service offering to somebody, you can go back and look at your little toolkit of education. And I've found that has been a very effective way to keep people engaged and also to develop people's skills in their current roles and in any further roles or career development that people may like in the future. So the provider's role. So remembering that ongoing support isn't a one-off activity. It consistently evolves and the support that you provide needs to be tailored to sustain inclusion and success. So what won't cut it? So calling in and saying, how are you going today? The answer that you'll probably get will be good. So if any of you have had the pleasure of having children or teenagers, you know if you have a conversation with them and you ask, how was your day? Yeah, good. Yeah. So same sort of concept. Think about what questions you're asking so that you're actually getting an engaging conversation with people. So potentially better questions, any challenges that you've had today? What was the best part of your day? So remember, it is always about consistently checking in with people, asking the questions so you're getting good quality responses so that you can design and deliver the individual support to people. Always use this strength-based approach. So focus on participant skills and build on them. Maintain that consistent contact, even when things seem stable. This is a critical part. So always keep that contact. Yeah, even if it's a shorter contact for a period of time, at least you're still developing that relationship and developing so that people know that you're there if they need anything in the future. Celebrate achievements. Recognise progress to build confidence. So celebrate the small things. Okay, this week you got to work on time every day. Yeah? You really nailed it around how to do that new task. So all those little things, make sure you celebrate. So by planning and sharing responsibility between employees, employers and providers, we create sustainable employment models that work for everybody. So some other things for providers to remember is to set clear expectations early, build trust through consistency and empathy. Track outcomes. Measure quality, not just duration. So another tip that a data analyst told me recently, and I thought that was a really good way to describe things about measurement and measuring quality, that you don't have data without stories, and you don't have stories without data. So when you're measuring your outcomes and your quality, make sure you're collecting your data, but also collect it in the stories as well, because that's an easy way to demonstrate how ongoing support can be done and actually promote your services as well. Adapt supports as needs or workplace changes, and be an employment partner with all stakeholders, not just a service provider. So your partnership should be with your participant, your employer, and other stakeholders or other people that they have in their lives, maybe their family, their carers, and just the community as a whole. Okay, so sustaining ongoing support. Again, embed a strength-based approach, maintain the regular contact, even when things are going well. Encourage your employers to own their inclusive practices, their policies, everything around inclusion. Assist them to do that if they're not sure. That's part of the role of ongoing support as well. Create your milestones and achievements. Develop support plans and have a whole different type of support plans, because you're dealing with a range of people with different disabilities, potentially people with different mental health needs. So with your support plans, have a number of them within your service delivery model, and so that then they can be tailored for individuals. Those support plans will come in handy just on a day-to-day basis, but also if there's an emergency, if there's a critical incident, or also just if someone's away, sick or on leave, those support plans I've found over the years have been a critical part. When you're collecting your data, use that. So don't just collect it and sit it on the bookshelf or sit it in your drives or wherever. Use that to improve your support models. So sustainability, planning plus communication and shared responsibility. That's the key takeaway for sustaining ongoing support. I'm going to have another little pause. Is there any questions, Sally?
I've got a couple of more general ones. Do you want me to save those to the end? Or...
Okay, we might do that then, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, fantastic. Okay, so some real life examples now. So when I started to prepare for this, I started to reflect on when I first was an employment consultant back in the day, in some of the different types of ongoing support I used to do. This was a favourite part of the job for me. I found it that you could become very creative with the types of support and working with people on achieving their goals. So one story that stood out for me was there was a young lady that I was supporting. She was working at a fast food outlet. She had anxiety and some learning challenges. And one day I received a phone call from the employer. And they said, look, she's locked herself in the storeroom and you really need to get out here ASAP. So off I went out in the car, got in and went out to the employment placement. And she was locked in the storeroom, so I gave a knock and said, yeah, it's Lisa here, and she let me in. And she was sitting on the floor, so she sat back down, so she'd been sitting on the floor the whole time until I arrived, because she was having a very severe anxiety attack. So I just sat with her on the floor and we started to do the breathing exercises. And we sat there for a good 5 to 10 minutes and I was just talking to her through breathing, slowing down her breathing until she got to the point where that was okay and we were able to go outside and do a walk and do some other breathing exercises. Yeah. And then her anxiety attack passed and she was able to go back to work for the day. But what we did after that was we worked with her psychologist and we developed a support plan. Okay, so what would happen if this happened in the workplace again? So what we did was we actually wrote out the breathing exercises and we actually trained the staff in how to take her through those breathing exercises. So if she had another anxiety attack, then she had some additional support that was on hand straight away that could help her with that. Another strategy that we put in place, which is sometimes used if people have anxiety, is she used to wear like a hairband around her wrist. And if she felt that she was going to have an anxiety attack, she just flicked that. And that was sort of a trigger for her to know, okay, well, I might be going to have an anxiety attack, so I might just take a break or do something else. So we had all that documented so she knew, her employer knew. Another one was around a participant that we had who really struggled to get to work. Once he was there, he was okay, wasn't too bad. But actually that process in that thinking process of getting up, getting to work was a real struggle for him. So what I used to do in this situation, I was used to do a morning call at 7 a.m. and make sure that he was up for the day. Yep. Then what he used to do was have different alarm clocks set around his bedroom at different times. So one triggered at 5 minutes, 10, 15, 20, so that if he didn't get out of the shower, that there was another trigger reminding him that he needed to get out of the shower and get ready for work. Then I used to meet him at the coffee shop at 8:45, just below where he worked, because he felt that if he had a responsibility to meet someone or meet myself there, then he would come to work. So that process, waking up, he knew then to get in the shower, he had his alarm set, then he knew he had another responsibility to meet me there at the coffee shop. Then he was generally okay for the day. The other thing that he did do was just set alarms on his phone, so to ensure that he had breaks during the day, because sometimes he'd get really caught up in doing his tasks and doing his duties. He actually worked in the public service where he forgot, and that would also bring on his anxiety and not give him a great day at work. So he's used to set those alarms to ensure he had those breaks during the day. Some more examples. So obviously the COVID changed the way that we did ongoing support, and most people went to video conferencing, and we did things a little bit differently, which we found was very effective, and we still used to do some of these things, and we still do some of these things with our NDIS participants and things as well. So particularly in COVID, we used to have a lunch group, so where our participants could log on and have their lunch, and we just used to have general conversations with people. So the same as if you were in the lunchroom in an office space, we just had the same type of concept just over Zoom, so people could enjoy their lunch and have that break and still have some interaction with people as well. One of the most popular things that we had was a trivia group. And everyone got quite competitive. So we used to set up and have the trivia online, and people used to come on and really enjoy that social interaction as well. We've also had employment coaches going out with participants to actually teach them their tasks. So an example is around at a fast food restaurant where their employment coach went in and taught them how to actually peel potatoes properly, how to cut the carrots properly, because the restaurant was very particular in the way that they wanted things done. So, you know, that may have been 1 or 2 weeks, you know, just working on those tasks together. Also breaking down duties into plain English readable documents is quite a common thing that we've done previously, so that people actually know what tasks are there. So just really breaking those down so that they're really easy readable tasks. Obviously, there's access, job access, so you can use that for workplace modifications as well. So my key takeaway with real examples is that all the sport needs to be tailored, individualised, because everyone's different. So make sure you're looking at those support plans and everything when you're looking at what types of support you're going to be offering. Okay, we're coming to the end. So I really do encourage you, if you've got questions, to pop them up into the chat or any comments or anything so that we can spend a lot of time talking. Okay.
Thanks, Lisa.
If you're at your desk, yes?
Sorry, you keep going. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. If you're at your desk and you've got a post-it note, please write down some key takeaways that you might have, or you can also put them up in the chat. But some of them are, our role is not just about securing placements. We need to help individuals thrive in their workplace while fostering those inclusive environments where employers benefits just as much as their employees do. So that ongoing support is that continuum. It's just not a one-off event. So success relies on relationships and collaboration. So you need to make sure that your relationships, you gain the trust of all parties. And that way you can have that lasting employment pathway and contribute to a more inclusive community where everyone feels belong in. So the goal is sustainable inclusion where people belong and thrive. If you don't have ongoing support as part of your service offerings, I'd really encourage you to go away and talk to your teams, your managers, and make sure that you include that. Have a look at your support plans, how you're going to do ongoing support in the new contract, because it's a critical part, and it's a critical part of making sure that people with disabilities, mental health issues have successful work placements and also successful career progression. Okay, Sally, I'm going to leave it for some questions for the moment.
So we just had this one come through just a moment ago. How has ongoing support changed in reporting terms with the new IEA contract?
That's a really good question and probably not necessarily one for me, as we are delivering the new EEA contract. So what's the question around reporting?
Yeah, and look, that's fine. I've got the person that submitted the question. So Kevin, we can get back to you post session with some extra detail, maybe. Yeah, if you want me to take that one on later, Lisa.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
No worries. Got Brendan asking about recording the information. In your past, have you recorded your supports from the appointments into ESS Web? Now, the new Workforce Australia program, ongoing support section, or were you you able to enter them into a third-party software program?
Yeah. So for us, we've always entered the ongoing support into a third-party software program. We actually were able to customize our software so that we actually prompted our ECs about what we wanted in the notes. So that's how we did it. And then all of our other support plans or anything else that we did around ongoing support, we would also upload to that third party system.
Yeah. And there's a question whether you could flesh out a bit more about what you mean by respectful relationships and communication as their broad terms. Yeah, whether you could talk to those in a little bit more detail.
Yep. So respectful relationships, I guess, is making sure you understand what the person needs from the relationship. Yeah, there's all sorts of things that come with. We have a set of service expectations, and that means that we, all the conversations that we have with people are respectful, that we're on times to appointments, that we're flexible in what we're doing. And generally, it's just really about how you would like to be treated. And one of the things that I always say to our ECs here or our NDIS support workers is really, if you had a son or daughter, brother or sister, auntie, uncle, whoever it may be, who has a disability, how would you like them to be treated and respected if they were receiving services? So if you look at it in that terms, then you just need to treat the person in that same sort of respectful relationship. Communication's an interesting one because it really does need to be tailored because some people might have some learning disabilities and their communication needs might be different. So it is about sitting down with people and really getting to know people. You can add these sort of questions in support plans around, communication, how do you like to be communicated with? Do you have any language barriers? Do you have any cultural communication things that we need to be aware of? All of those sort of questions can be sort of asked through the process of getting to know people, which will also assist you with how is best to communicate with someone. I always say that when you're doing a support plan or you're doing some sort of documentation with people, try to make it as natural as possible. You don't want to be sitting here with your paperwork writing down every question they answer. Just try to have that natural conversation. Remember those sort of things in your head, and then you can document that later as well.
Lovely, thank you. There's a question from Jason. Jason, we might need a little more context perhaps, but Jason's asking about whether people who don't have a CRN are eligible for the services that Nexus offers. So yeah, perhaps that's one. Yeah, Jason, if you could give us a little bit more context, or maybe you and Lisa could perhaps follow that up afterwards, might be an option as well.
Well, I guess under the new contract, yes, people now for 0 to 7 can actually access the services. So not necessarily a question probably necessarily for Nexus as such, but as for all providers, yes, they should be able to access the services.
And when it comes to scenarios where either the employer or the participant might be hesitant to have ongoing support delivered sort of on the work site, face to face, in person, do you have any advice or experience in how you can still deliver that support and still make it effective, even if you can't really be in the workplace?
Yeah, definitely. So, obviously, disclosure is, a person's choice if they want to disclose that they have a disability or want that support actually in the workplace. Um, Look, from our experience, most of our participants would disclose, and that's just because they could see the benefit of that, so that that workplace support and those any adjustments could be made. But in a situation where perhaps they didn't want to disclose, then we would provide that support outside of the employment setting. So in some cases, we might be meeting people in the coffee shops, just having a debrief or doing some of that education work that I spoke about. In some situations, people might choose to come into the office and might want to catch up with some of our other participants in a support group type style of support. So there's all sorts of different supports that you can provide, even though if you're not in the workplace. And the majority of what we did, because we did have a mental health specialist contract as well, was that support outside the workplaces. And as I mentioned, in the coffee shops, at lunch, or as I mentioned earlier as well, when COVID came in and still continues on around that video conferences and things, is that flexible servicing as well.
Mm. And along similar lines, there will be a lot of participants in ongoing support that will be changing or have just changed providers. So, as practitioners are going out and meeting with participants and new employers, and perhaps they're participants that have been with their previous provider for an extended period of time, any advice on I guess just managing or supporting them to manage that change and kind of maybe some of the steps that you might take if you were going out to meet with a participant who'd been receiving ongoing support from another provider for a long time and had now moved into a new provider.
Yeah. I would start by just going out and really showing empathy to the person, because it's a big change. It's a huge change for people. And as Sally mentioned, some participants have been with providers, for 30, 40 years. So go out there with that empathetic hat on and just start to get to know them. You don't need to rush in, oh, we need to do this paperwork, we need to do this support plan. Just get to know people. Have those natural conversations. Talk about themselves, their likes, their dislikes, their hobbies, talk about, what they enjoy about work, what struggles they may have at work, do they enjoy what they're doing, what would be potentially, start just building those foundations of talking about what their goals may be in the future. So is it going to be, yep, I want to stay in this workplace and I just want to feel like I've got a good work-life balance, or actually I want to study and I want to move in the future. So just that natural progression of getting to know people with empathy is what I would say.
Amazing. Thank you. All right, we are drawing towards the close, so I'll go back through the chat just in case I've missed anyone, and I'll follow up or if we have. But thank you so much for coming along today, Lisa, and sharing your experience and the things that you've learned in providing that person-centered ongoing support. Really appreciate those real world examples that you've shared with us today. A copy of the recording and the presentation will be made available if anyone wants to go back over it or share it with a colleague that hasn't been able to make it today. Also want to thank Liv and Hanif for doing all of the behind the scenes work to make this possible. And in terms of next week, we'll be joined by the Australian Network on Disability, looking at employer engagement. So we look forward to having you join us then, and hope that you all have a lovely rest of the week. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you all. Thanks, Sally.
Thanks,
Bye.
Lisa.